Hello, dear foodie friends, and welcome to Kitchen Chat. I'm Margaret McSweeney. I'm so glad you're joining me today here in Chicago at Shula's Restaurant at Sheraton, and I can't wait for you all to meet Chef Matt Moore. Welcome to Kitchen Chat in Chicago.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, I'm so excited because May is National Barbecue Month, and you have a fabulous new book out called South's Best Butts Pitmaster Secrets for Southern Barbecue Perfection. What a fun book.
Yeah, we wanted to have fun with the title. So the idea was that we take the pork butt. So let me just kind of get it all the way out there. The pork butt is actually not from the butt, it's the shoulder. Okay. And we wanted to kind of use that as our medium to go out and showcase all the different regional varieties of barbecue. So we go to all 12 states of the barbecue belt. And people ask that question all the time. Where does that start? Where does it end? It's the one opinion that people collectively have all together. It starts as far west as Texas up to Oklahoma. You make your way east. Sorry, you skipped Florida. And we wanted to kind of showcase all the different styles. So the pork butt is our medium to tell stories about preparation, rubs, the way that they cook the meats, and also the way that they serve the meats. But at the same time, you're getting recipes for chicken, brisket, everything in between, all the sides and trimmings. But fun title and such a great journey for us to take on to showcase where barbecue has been and where it's going.
Yes, and speaking of journeys, your journey has been quite eclectic. Is that a fair word to say? And exciting in so many different ways.
Yeah, I wanted to. Diversity was important to me, right? So I wanted to make sure that we highlighted. I think when most people think of barbecue, they think it's a man's world. For me, it was important to showcase that it's not a man's world. In fact, you've got some incredible women. There's roughly 4 in the book that we feature that are lighting fires at 4 a.m., cooking their own wood, handling a 100-pound hog and throwing it on the fire. But at the same time, different races, ethnicities. So we run the gamut from traditional Southern barbecue, which is opinions are like butts. Everybody has one. My mother-in-law gave me that line. It's the first line of the book. Obviously, she used a little bit more colorful language that I had to pare down for the actual writing of the book. But, to me, it was really important to kind of showcase where people are in their lives and carrying on a grand Southern tradition, right? Barbecue is really hard. It takes a lot of time and energy. It takes, early hours in the morning. And at the same time, most folks, we're in a white tablecloth restaurant. Most folks are judged like a Michelin-starred chef when it comes to barbecue, right? People think that this is great barbecue, this is not great barbecue. A lot of time and effort. It's great. It's really easy to cook a great steak, but to cook a great pork butt or a rib or a brisket takes a lot of time and effort. And it was really fun to go out and tell those stories.
Yes, and it's just presented, and I'll make sure, dear listeners and viewers, that I have a link to the book, which is just launched. And you really go on a journey. You prepare, you really share the stories of these restaurants, and I love how you set it up for the reader. You say, this is the barbecue quilt of the South.
I wanted people to come, and I had my photographer, Andrea Behrens, who's based in Nashville. She's phenomenal. Really kind of avant-garde style, kind of very rogue. Did a phenomenal job of capturing the behind the scenes of the kitchens and smokehouses. She's got an incredible way of connecting with people and getting their true self in terms of photography. It's my job to connect with them to tell their stories. And the idea was we traveled 2,500 highway miles driving, and then 3,500 nautical miles where she trusted her life to me to fly in a 1976 Piper Cherokee to travel to all these different places. And I wanted to capture a sense of adventure, right? So the idea is this: if you have the opportunity to go out and do the same exact tour that we went on in the 12 states, fantastic. If you don't, I wanted to make the recipes super accessible for people at home, to cook pork butts. And if you don't have the time to cook a 12, 16, as short as 3.5 hours in the book, pork butt, you can go pick it up from your local restaurant or grocery store and utilize the recipes and serve that as kind of the base to create your own template, to create your own memories, to invite friends over for dinner. And that's the most fun part of the book.
and barbecue is always just such a welcoming food as well. And I love how you describe it as a quilt, because it's almost as if each state has its unique pattern and flavor of barbecue and the sauce and whose sauce is best. Can you share some insight into that?
Yes, and like I said, it's highly opinionated. I think we can all agree upon a few things. The French have 5 mother sauces, okay? In barbecue, you kind of have 5 mother sauces. The Carolinas, specifically North Carolina, is known for whole hog cooking and a vinegar-based sauce. So you'll be shot dead if they catch any tomato in the sauce in the Carolinas. It's apple cider vinegar, whole hog, crushed red pepper, and salt. As you make your way south, due to a lot of the immigration of German immigrants, you'll find some more mustard-based sauces in South Carolina. You start making your way east and south, you'll pick up in northern Alabama a white-based sauce. It's typically apple cider vinegar, some mayonnaise. And then as you find your way up to the north, you go up to Kentucky. Kentuckians are known for neutrality, so they do everything differently. Sorry, Kentucky. But, mutton is the preferred meat. Kentucky folks are cheap. The rumor was back in the day, Catholic churches didn't have money to buy pigs, so they started barbecuing mutton instead. And you got Worcestershire-based sauces. And then when you pick up your ways towards Memphis, Kansas City, St. Louis, you're going to get more of the tomato molasses-based sauces as well. So we kind of wanted to give that template. So we give you the 5 mother sauces, but at the same time, we also give you kind of a recipe from each restaurant, so long as I could pry it out of the pitmaster's hands.
Yes, and that was quite a feat, I'm sure.
Oh, goodness gracious. I'll never forget Helen Turner based in Brownsville, Tennessee. It was a July day. We left Smyrna, Tennessee, probably 101 degrees. We're in a plane. There's no air conditioning in the plane. Andrea hops in. She's like, it's real hot. I said, just let us get up to 6,000 feet. It'll cool down. We land. Helen's a special kind of a woman. She just says, I said, Helen, how do you do? I just do, honey. That's their quote to me. But I called her. I said, hey, Helen, I landed in Jackson. I'm ready to come over. She said, honey, today's the wrong day. Finally, I turned the tables on Helen. I said, you know what, Helen? I said, I flew here. I said, we risk life and limb. I'm coming out of your restaurant. I'm ready to eat your food. Okay, we're going to put it on. So for about the first 30 minutes, it was a little bit tight and contested. She was frying pork rinds. All of a sudden, we just had a great old time. She reminded me of my grandmother. By the end of the day, she showcased to me, and this is really what it's all about. A lot of these folks don't think they have a story to tell, right? They wake up super early. They cook food all day. They have stories. They're incredible people. They work their tails off to pay for their family, for everything else, to carry on a tradition. And it was a lot of fun to sit down with her and see a journal that in Brownsville, Tennessee, you have people from Germany, all over the South, all over the United States, all over the world that come and celebrate this one woman's cooking and her food, her service. And I think it's important to document that.
I love how you really discovered and shared with all of us on this journey the unique places. For example, one barbecue place in Pell City, Alabama, that's in a Texaco gas station. Tell us about that.
So Wade Rich is the guy's name. He is a Southern gentleman if I've ever met one. He, weirdly enough, he's traveled all over the world. So in today's Instagram world and social media world, we think of promotions as being these instantaneous things, right? He actually started back in the late 60s and 70s with a supermarket promotion business where if you went to a particular restaurant or, supermarket and bought enough, before even the punch cards of the Subways existed, you would receive free Chinaware, if you will. And it became such a hit in the United States that he lived in Paris and London and all over the world. It's a very cultural gentleman, and he returned back to Alabama, and I love it. He said that the gas business got so bad, he decided to open a restaurant. And anybody that knows food, which I'm sure your listeners do, to me, that's just a hilarious standpoint. So in the South, though, there's perfect harmony of eating barbecue at a Texaco. And, you sit down, you're buying gas, and he calls it butts to go, which is exactly what the place is. You pick up a pork butt and you take it to go. And there's a lake right nearby, and people stop in, and he still wears, bless his soul, man, he's in Alabama during the middle of the summer. He's wearing just a white starched, business shirt, just a genteel Southern gentleman that's carrying on the tradition. and just having fun. I mean, really, that's all I got out of him. Like, his life has been this grand histoire of stories, and he's cooking barbecue, and it's great barbecue. And it's in the most unassuming places, and it's super humble. And to me, that's the art.
Yes, and it really does connect the world, barbecue, because you look at all of the different cultures and cuisines. And I love how your book also highlights sides. And with pho, I never thought of pho, or however you say it, to be paired with barbecue. And also the, is it called the banh mi? How do you?
Banh mi,
Banh mi.
yeah, of course.
Yes.
I wanted to take barbecue in the past of, Southerners are pretty proud of our food, right? And so we have a lot of opinions. That being said, we're a diverse culture, and I think it's important to really recognize where it's been in the past, pay homage to it. Great barbecue is something that takes a lot of time and effort, but at the same time, we can expand the flavors. I'll be honest with you, when I first set out to shine a spotlight on the pork butt, I felt like we were going to encounter a lot of people doing the same things. We smoke a 12-pound butt at 250 degrees for 12 hours. There might have been a 5-degree variance in temperature and a few hours extra, but really it was so diverse in terms of preparation, in terms of the method, but most importantly in terms of service. One of my favorite places we went to is Heirloom Barbecue Market in Atlanta, Georgia. Cody Taylor is a gentleman there that born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee, spent a lot of time in East Texas. He would be what you would give true credence to as a Southern pitmaster. He does all the right things. Cooks with hardwood, coals, everything that you can ever imagine. He's a bona fide pitmaster. His wife, Ji-yeon Lee, I'm going to say this. South Korea, born and raised. She's a Korean pop star. When I say this, I know we don't really give credence to it. She's as big in South Korea as Britney Spears is in the United States. Wow. No questions asked, right? I did some research. I didn't know it, but like monstrously huge. She left the spotlight to come to Atlanta, formerly trained as a chef, and they met in one of the highest, Repas is a great Atlanta restaurant. They decided they wanted to pay homage to Southern barbecue. So what they ended up doing by marriage, I'm married. They mixed traditional Southern barbecue with her Korean influence. And it's not Korean barbecue. So I don't want people to think that it's Korean barbecue, because that's taken on its own moniker over the years. What they've done is they've just really harmoniously taken true Southern barbecue and created a melange with the ingredients. So collard greens all of a sudden become braised with a little bit of miso. You've got a gochujang, which is kind of a traditional Korean red chili pepper flake that it basically is kind of the marinade for a pork butt. So to me, I say, what is your barbecue? They say it's Atlanta, because Atlanta is known for diversity. Yeah. And they say we want to be known as not great barbecue, but we want to be known as Atlanta barbecue. And I think that's really important, is where we go as a culture. They pay homage to the past, but they're recreating it. And let me tell you what, it is darn delicious.
This is incredible. And the recipe for that miso collard greens, I was like, wow, that just sounds so good. And it is changing the flavor profile, but really enhancing it, as you said, just adding and respecting, but reinventing as well.
And if you look at the history, pigs were first commonly agreed upon to be brought over in the 1600s by De Soto, because they could survive long voyages at sea. They could be raised on much less of a budget than cattle. And the idea is that, what is barbecue? I mean, I was sitting down with Meathead, who's a phenomenal pitmaster, amazing guy, and he just said, I did a speech the other day, and he was like, we all don't know what barbecue is, right? And the more that we agree that we don't know, the better that we can embrace where it might go. And I think that's super important. I think we can all agree that great barbecue is something that we spend time and effort to pursue, cooking over coals, doing all the right things, maintaining proper temperature and time control. Skip Steele's a guy that runs a restaurant that we feature at Bogart's in St. Louis. Phenomenal pitmaster, probably the most famous pitmaster we feature in the book. And he said it perfectly. Time plus temperature equal results. So I don't care if you have a $10,000 Old Hickory smoker, or if you have a $50 Weber kettle grill. If you can maintain temperature over time, you can cook great barbecue, period. And I think that's really important for folks that have typically been intimidated by the whole the process of smoking. It's just a matter of maintaining time and temperature, and we give you a lot of my thoughts and theories on to how you can do that, whether it is a little bit of a mix of gas, whether it's full lump charcoal, whether it's actual woods, or even a bit of briquettes for some people that might have offense to that. At Big Butts Barbecue in Leechville, Arkansas, I came across a guy that cooked on only Big Butts, perfect name, right? Only briquettes, and guess what? The results were fantastic, So how do you argue with somebody that cooks with great results?
Right, but just keeping those basic tenets of time and temperature.
Sure.
Those are great guidelines
Absolutely
at the
huge.
grill. Wonderful. And I love all of the sides. And I never thought about fried okra as French fries as a side. Could you tell us about that and what inspired that?
I think sides, if you go to a great barbecue restaurant, if you come to my house for dinner, sides should run the mighty length of the Mississippi in a southern table, right? And, what's interesting is okra. We think about fried okra. My last cookbook we did, my grandmother was a great, great cook. And, she just said, honey, if it tastes good, great, we'll go for it. One of my favorite ways to prepare okra was literally just kind of roasting it super, super hot with salt and pepper and olive oil. But weirdly enough, in this book, we discovered if you actually cut the okra and you create more surface area, you create kind of more of a fried texture because it's more handheld. And, you get a great texture out of it. It cooks it all to temp. Okra, I think, is one of those discovered ingredients. It's a world ingredient. It's an African ingredient. It's brought over. And this is an interesting standpoint that we get into, and I felt it important to get into in the book. The pig has long served as kind of the common ground in Southern culture, right? There's some things that we're very proud of in the South, and many areas that we're not. And one of those areas was back in the days when there was a slave culture that existed. Even today, there is a term called pig pickins, which even at the rare time of slavery, there was a rare act of humanity where you broke the social bounds of hierarchy, and slave owners and slaves would actually sit down, and what I think is the most common act of humanity is actually enjoying a meal together. And it was the pig that brought people together. Weirdly enough, okra is also an ingredient that was imported to the South that is still a Southern ingredient, but it was actually brought over at those times. So I think it's really important to recognize how an ingredient and a culture can come together. And at the same day, I always say that friends, strangers, preachers, they're all invited to my Sunday table, right? It's a place that I've celebrated joy. New kids being brought into the world, new romances being existed, and at the same time, death and divorce, all at my dinner table. And I think it's important that food kind of serves as that medium to where we can all kind of dig in and learn more about each other.
Yes, it really brings us all together. As we say on Kitchen Chat, the kitchen is the heart of the world because it does bring everyone together. And I love how you have brought all of the barbecue and the best butts of the South together in this cookbook. I'll make sure I have links. But meanwhile, on a personal note, I wanted to hear, how did your culinary journey begin?
Oh gosh, do you have another 30 minutes? I grew up in a family where my grandmother was Lebanese, and it's her kitchen and it's not your kitchen. Right. My mom obviously adopted that, so I grew up playing sports. I was super active, and the great thing about my parents was that you just were always too busy to be in trouble. So you come home from football practice, you learn how to do your own laundry, and then you also had to go help mom in the kitchen. And what I discovered when I moved to Nashville, playing music professionally was, at some point I had a lot of fun, and a lot of my friends were super famous, and kudos to them, but for whatever reason it just wasn't in the cards for me. Food was, and storytelling was, and in the same way that you write songs and you tell stories, I was able to do it through food, and it was a unique journey. And so I decided one day, I called my friend who was an agent at CAA. He's a dear friend of mine in Nashville, Tennessee. I said, look, I'm going to write a cookbook because I'm traveling all over playing music, and we bring all this food back. Everybody loves it. I said, let's just write this book, and we'll make a book about guys teaching girls how to or cooking for girls. He said, I think it's a great idea. And I said, well, you've never thought any of my songs were great ideas, Jeff Crones. And so, but also in today's hypermedia world, unless you have a platform to sell something, it was very difficult. Long story short, I broke it as an independent book, an independent album. And I believe that good things happen to good people. Maybe I'm a good person or not, but Julia Moskin, who New York Times, she reached out to her many times. I was not afraid of hearing the word no back in the day. And she kindly just wrote, I think, the best thing that could ever have been said. She said that I was an earnest author, and I wrote a book about guys cooking for girls. My subject was just be a gentleman. You're a man. Men need to know how to cook for themselves, but they need to learn how to cook for a woman. And the book, that was my break. And we wrote 2 years ago a book called The Southern Gentleman's Kitchen, which is my homage to family, friends, hunting and fishing, the Southern lifestyle. It's been a great journey. You know, I think at the end of the day, this book taught me that it's more about actually telling the stories behind the people and what they're doing than anything else.
Yes, that is so true. And what do you think is next? Anything else in the works?
I can tell you what's next. I'm having baby girl number 2, which is so exciting. You know, I think there's many ideas. This barbecue book, for example, we featured 12 restaurateurs in 12 states. There's 3,600 people that I could have featured, right? You know, I think at the end of the day, food, people are interested not only in good food, but we're all interested in people and connecting with people. And I have so much joy in just meeting great folks that work hard, you know, that are super humble, that need to be deserved, right? And if it's my job to tell their stories, goodness gracious, you know, what an honor.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is truly an honor to meet you and to share your story and the wonderful stories in this book. And I just can't wait to go to Texaco and Bell City, Alabama.
Absolutely.
Try that out.
That is a joy.
And I am just so excited to share this. And one last thing on Kitchen Chat, we always say, okay, what are the 3 best tips that you would give to a home chef?
Goodness gracious. Number 1, bourbon. Cast iron, right? I'm a Southern guy, so I think there's nothing more versatile than a cast iron pan. I have as many pairs of cowboy boots as I do cast iron pans. That's my vice. You know, number 2, a sharp knife. And you don't need a lot of knives. Just get one nice sharp knife. And the last, a can-do attitude. Right? You know, I think that we are often afraid of taking on different cuisines. So it was really actually a lot of fun for this book. Like, a lot of my friends would always say that Asian cuisine has always been intimidating to me. And this has kind of been the book where I kind of allowed myself to go there. And you've got ramens, you've got banh mi's, you've got all these different like takes on Asian cooking, and it's such an incredible world that actually has a lot of commonality with things we're all familiar with, right? The ingredients, if you look at the latitudes of where we live, we all grow the same things. We just approach them differently, right? And so I think that's it. Get a great cast iron pan, get a great knife, and never be afraid to go into the kitchen and cook. Because even if you screw it up, you can buy a bottle of red wine and call it pizza restaurant and have a great night.
Great advice. And the other great advice is get the book. I'll make sure I have the link. And one final thing. What does your wife like for you to cook for her?
Oh, goodness. Pasta bolognese. No questions asked.
And any secret in the sauce?
More cinnamon than you would ever imagine. And allspice, too. It's a Lebanese thing, yeah. All my salad dressings have allspice. Can't believe I just told you guys that.
The secrets. I love that.
Yeah, it's big. So to me, bolognese is comfort. It's love. You know, even if I don't make a homemade pasta, she always still loves it. And you just add more cinnamon, and you think it doesn't need more cinnamon, but it does. And a touch of allspice, because it actually adds like a weird umami flavor. Allspice does. That, you know, kind of rounds it out.
Great to know. And for more information, what is your website?
Yeah, my website is just super simple. I'm not the famous football player or baseball player. Trust me, there's a lot of Matt Moores. My parents could have given me better names, but it's just mattrmoore.com. And I still hold on to the music thing. So Matt Moore Music at Instagram is typically my best method for getting in touch there.
And what would be a great soundtrack for this book? What would you envision?
Oh, goodness. It's funny you asked that. This is the first time I've been asked that. The last book, The Southern Gentleman's Kitchen, I said that Marshall Tucker Band was the soundtrack. Because I just think there's no more quintessential band than Marshall Tucker for South. To me, the band, just the band. So the reason I say that is because they're Canadians, and they represent such a great Southern soul, and I think diversity is huge for this book. So it spawns all different generations, and I think barbecue is such an old school piece, and I'm going to go with the band on that one.
Terrific. Well, once again, Matt Moore, thank you so much for being on
Thank you.
Kitchen Chat.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
And thank you, dear foodie friends, for following along on this culinary journey. I love hearing from you. And always remember to take a moment and savor the day.